Lina, we have 12 here out of about 58 that registered. Should we give it another few minutes or should we start on time?
With before Zoom, I used to give the Miami 10 when we were live.
Okay.
In Zoom, I tend to give the Miami 5.
Okay, let's give a Miami 5. Okay.
It's about 5 minutes.
Okay, that sounds good.
Like part of our culture, our city's culture.
Good morning. Okay, we'll be beginning in a few minutes, just to give others a little more time to get here. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone who's arriving. We're going to begin in a few minutes. We're just maybe about 2 more minutes. Just want to say hello and acknowledge everyone's beautiful face. Some familiar faces. Hi, Avis. Good to see you. Good morning, Sarah and Rafaela, Daniela. Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin. Good morning and welcome to everyone. And we may have people trickling in, and that's fine. But we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome and thank you for joining us today for this very important panel and on presence over perfection, mindful parenting. My name is Dorlie. I work with Mindful Kids Miami as a program director and lead teacher, and I'll be the moderator for today. Our intention for this event is to provide you with straightforward information from two very experienced and dedicated professionals. They're going to share tips to help you as a parent support your own health so that you can more fully support your child's development and happiness. So I'm going to be introducing our two panelists shortly, but before then, let me just give you a brief review of the organizations that we're highlighting today. Stop Parenting Alone. This is Lina's organization. Their mission is for all parents to fall in love with their parenting journey. I personally love that. Stop Parenting Alone offers a variety of support, including parenting consultation, classes and workshops, classroom observation, and online parenting support. We have Valerie here from Mindful Kids Miami, which are celebrating their 10-year anniversary this year of serving our community by bringing research-based mindfulness programs to our community. And this mission is mostly achieved by providing quality programs to adults that serve children. Though we also serve adults that don't serve children, and we also serve children directly. So now I would like to introduce our two wonderful panelists. Lina Acosta Sandaal. Make sure I got the last name right. Okay. She founded Stop Parenting Alone on the idea that with the right information, parents always make the right decisions for their children. Through research-based methods such as attachment theory and child-parent psychotherapy and real-life parenting experiences, importantly, she creates the opportunity for each family to find their authenticity and become their truest selves. She's committed to enriching the lives of her clients by assisting in self-discovery, encouraging them to attain the change desired, and creating the space to explore their role as individuals, partners, and parents. We have Valerie DeWitt. Valerie DeWitt from Mindful Kids Miami has been sharing the benefits of body-mind practices with children and families in Miami for 22 years. She helped pave the way for bringing social, emotional, and physical benefits of yoga programs to Miami schools. Valerie's work supports children struggling with attention, anxiety, and anger, and also helps parents to learn how to use mind-body practices to support emotional regulation. Valerie joined MKM in 2011 and has led the development and delivery of our signature program, the Mindful Teacher Training Program. This is where educators, healthcare providers, and caregivers like parents learn how to bring age-appropriate and trauma-sensitive mindfulness to children. Valerie's inspiration to pursue this path originated from parenting her two boys, which are now adults. One just got married last weekend. Okay. So I will be, as the moderator, asking questions directed towards Lina and Valerie, or Lina or Valerie. And if you have a question that pops up for you, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we will hopefully be able to get to some of those questions at the end. But until then, I probably won't be going back and forth to read the chat. So before we begin, I just want to give a moment and see if Valerie or Lina would like to add anything. And if not, okay, great. And we'll go ahead and begin. And I'd like to begin with a question for Lina. Lina, as a social emotional development expert, what do you feel is the relationship between mindfulness and social emotional learning? And how can the collaboration benefit children?
So a lot of us as parents believe that children just learn how to manage their emotional world, by osmosis. And that's half right, right? Because the one osmosis that the children are in is anchoring in or plugging in to their caregivers, whether it's teacher, coach, parent, to their caregiver's nervous system, right? Our nervous system is constantly taking in information And that is really like 80% of all the decisions that we make are being made by our nervous system and our body, not what we think. So I'll say that again, 80%, right? What is happening to our nervous system and how we are perceiving our environment, both in our senses, our mood, our senses, our mood, our physical, are we tired? Are we hungry? As well as whomever we are with, right? So all of these aspects of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, problem solving, all the executive functions, all the keywords that we talk about in social emotional learning starts with co-regulating with the caregivers around us. 80% of it is how they're being. So how does mindfulness fit into the social emotional development of a child? Well, the child cannot learn about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and all the juicy social emotional markers if they are plugging in to activated and or shut down and burnt out nervous system from their caregiver, because they will plug in, co-regulate, meaning be with and get information from the caregiver, and then they can practice emotion and all that business. So I like to tell parents, listen, you go to Zumba for your heart. We go to mindfulness and we do a mindfulness practice for our brain, for our nervous system, and for our responsibility to co-regulate with our offspring. It's not optional.
Thank you. Thank you, Lina. And I wonder, Valerie, is there something you'd like to add?
Yeah, I would love to add something. And Lina, that was a beautiful metaphor description of the plugging in aspect for that co-regulation. I have heard it said by experts that the mindfulness approach works from the inside out and SEL teaches from the outside in. And we really do need both. And mindfulness is really integrated in the foundational core competencies that are in the SEL program. So this ability to be self-aware starts definitely with the parents so that they can help a child or children model and learn their own self-regulation. So they do work very compatibly and hand in hand and are not really as effective excluding one or the other. Thank you.
Thank you. Since we are living in such a digital world, even students having to learn digitally the past few years, we all know that kids are very tech savvy. I have a 3-year-old that knows how to get into my phone and find YouTube. And so what are your thoughts? I'll start with Valerie. Knowing that teens are so savvy, and even adolescents and small children, with digital devices, not only using them for entertainment and their socializing, but also for learning. Are mindfulness apps, so I get asked this every kids workshop, are mindfulness apps a good way for kids to learn mindfulness?
Being a body-based, body-centered instructor and practitioner, I find any external source not as valuable as finding ways to access that ability to be self-aware from just what's here right now in our physical body and our immediate environment. And there are supportive ways, I would say, for students, particularly older students, to access mindfulness. I use a phone app for some practices when I want to, but they can also become something that children and adults become very dependent on, and then they have no capacity to just be mindful in their own, in their own place and time where they have no resources outside themselves. So I think it is best learned through the guidance of a dedicated program and instructor, and that apps can help support a practice, but I don't necessarily believe it's the best way to learn. It can inspire more learning. But I think that the practice is foundationally best done when it is not reliant on an external product of any kind. That's personal, very personal.
Thank you. Thank you. Lina, is there anything you'd like to add in regards to digital versus in person, or having a teacher facilitator?
Um, I want to piggyback on what Valerie said. Back to this idea of co-regulation and our nervous system and how we pick up a lot of information and learn a lot of what we learn from just what we are physically experiencing. Presence with a teacher and presence with a guide is definitely best practice. Just like you can't run the marathon if you don't do the short runs on the weekend, right? You can't just, jump in. That being said, a habit is built. Everybody talks about the 21 days, but really a lot of research shows that, for it to be automatic, for it to be something, a habit is automatic by definition, right? We have to do it 4 to 6 months. So we have to have a fluid practice. And sometimes people get stuck on the idea that it has to be perfect. So how I see the apps is an opportunity to do it every day, no matter what, to kind of build the habit, right? So it's an add-on for us because our brain is experience dependent, right? What we do the most is what, sticks. So the way that I see the apps is an opportunity to do it, if you want to build a habit, do it every day, do it poorly, and, do the little bit that you can, but do it every day. And I think that that's where an app can be very powerful for everyone. And I'd like to say, as it pertains to sleep, which is, for most parents, that's like their boogeyman, especially parents with children under 7. There are beautiful guided meditations at bedtime. And I tend to tell parents about them with, from the apps, Calm has some, Insight Timer has some, Smiling Mind has some, because what I find is that it actually benefits the parent more than the child, because they are forced to listen to a meditation every night while they're doing bedtime. And that's kind of like my sneaky way to get in some daily meditation for parents. Just telling the truth here.
Thank you. And thank you for that honesty. And we got to sneak it in whenever we can, right? These small doses. So in regards to that, bringing in this regular practice to make a habit, Lina, what are some practical ways that you can guide parents into integrating mindful moments in their day so that maybe it can hopefully build into more of a habit?
So again, how do we build a habit? By doing it every day, poorly, even a little something works. But another way to build a habit is to associate it or link it with something that you do every day anyway. So think about all the things that you do every day anyway, unconscious. Driving, unfortunately, washing dishes, right? Checking your email. Think about brushing your teeth, right? You're actually having a moment when you're brushing your teeth, because most of you are having you're playing out the tape in your head. So I'd like you, for instead of playing the tape in your head, become conscious of, I'm brushing my teeth, and now I'm gonna notice what the brush feels like on my teeth. Right? And when you're driving, every time you get to a stoplight, fine, I know the mind wanders, it goes into its narrative and its storylines, because our brain loves to create narratives about what is happening in front of us. But every time you hit a stoplight, you drive every day, right? Take a moment to check if you have tight places in your body. And for those of you that have children under 5, FYI, if you have a 3-year-old, 3 major tantrums per hour and 1 minor conflict every 3 minutes is perfectly normal. So instead of going in and trying to stop the behavior, pause, breathe, and calm your nervous system before you say anything to the toddler. And you will be mindful 3 times per hour, which is wonderful. So again, what I tell parents is when your child is overstimulated and challenging behavior and screaming bloody murder, that's an opportunity to stop, scan the body, tighten, loosen, now respond. So you're going to do that a lot if you're a parent, no matter how old your child is, right? And link it to something you already do without thinking, right? But now you're thinking about your breath. Now you're thinking about your muscles. And now you're thinking about paying attention to what you're doing. And if you do that, and the minutes will add up.
Yes, thank you. And those are all practices that we can do without any extra time needed in our schedule because we're already doing those daily activities. We're just becoming present to those daily activities. And not only are the informal practices really important, what we can attend to on an everyday basis or in our regular activities, there are also formal practices like the audio that you were talking about, Lina, before bed. And Valerie, in the program that you helped to create, the Mindful Teacher Training Program, I know there's there's a variety of formal practices and informal. Formal meaning we have to set some time apart or aside. And I'm wondering if you might be able to give us an example of a practice that would be helpful, maybe not only for child, but for the whole family or for parents also.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple of brief ones that I can touch on. One is not in our guidebook, but we've been using it in our trainings, and some of you may already know it. And it's called the 5-finger breathing. And I'm just going to hold up a hand so you can see it, but you can do this along with me. And this can be taught to a child and practice for ourselves. And with the other hand, just tracing. As you trace up, you're following your in-breath. As you trace down, you're following your out breath, letting the breath guide this movement, breathing in and out until you get all the way to the other side, breathing in and out. And it can be nice to rest your hand in your lap or on a desk or table and close your eyes and just tap into the sensory experience of this touch with breath together. And that's a great way to pause in any given moment. 5-finger breathing. And the other is a really brief befriending your breath practice, which is a traditional mindfulness practices that we've scaled down for simplicity to work with children. And that's just bringing, again, the touch. When we're bringing body and breath together, we're more present. So one hand or both hands on the belly, and the eyes can be softened or closed altogether. And just allowing the body to breathe, feeling the sense of movement in the belly beneath the hands. Breathing in and breathing out, not forcing, pushing, pulling, just letting the body breathe. And noticing the touch of the hands, or even if a child is lying down or an adult is lying down, you can put a pillow or a weighted stuffed animal on the belly and practice. I learned it first 20 years ago as belly breathing with a buddy. So those are some simple ways that can be done at any point in time that, like Lina expressed, the stop practice, just a pause in the midst of your life to notice and bring attention to body, mind, breath. That is a gift and a skill that we can all benefit from.
Thank you, Valerie. What would you recommend for parents who just don't feel comfortable guiding their kids in a practice like this? You know, they might feel like they don't have the words, or how would you recommend that they, you know, take that leap and practice it together?
Well, there are those apps and there are lovely books available now, especially for the youngest children. There are great board books and lessons that a parent can read. I taught so much to my children through the gift of books that, they could learn, or stories to be shared about other children and how they work with struggles when they're having a tantrum. There's a great book that's one of my favorites called When Sophie Gets Angry. And I use it all the time with elementary school age children. So there are lots of ways and support for parents now, more so now than when I was raising my boys. But absolutely, there's tons available. And seek out the professionals and support of someone like Lina, or come to our mindfulness classes for parents. We also have kids programs that I know you'll speak about in a moment.
Thank you. And if I might add that as a parent, it's different teaching to, a group of adults or bringing it to your child. And if we're having fun, if we're engaged, the language, the script, it really doesn't matter. If they see us breathing in and lifting our arms, they'll usually want to do it too when they're little ones. But then also just being the model, being the embodied person that they can see the practices from and learn from. So those are some ways that I've been doing that. So thank you. Lina, what do you think is the most important tip that you can give parents so they feel they're supporting their children's mood and behavior?
Be clear and aware of your mood and behavior. It's that silly thing that we hear time and again, and we hear it time and again because it's truth. We must put the oxygen mask on ourselves before we put it on our child. Because back to the idea of, I'll give you a visual. I always say this to parents. Your children are the fish. You are the water. So when you are in doubt, when you are like, I don't know what to do with this person, I don't know what to do with my teenager, the answer is always, well, how's your nervous system? How is your mood? How is your energy? Because no matter how old they are, they plug into you. We still do it as adults. We do it with our romantic partners. We do it with our best friends. All of us, our brain is made to be connected, right? And for me, the most important thing that I want parents to know, that there's nothing selfish about making sure that you're calm and making sure that you're at your best. Now, any parent that's listening to me right now is going, oh my God, I'm messing up my kids because, oh my God, I'm crazy most of the time. That's okay too. The minute you catch yourself crazy, the minute you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that, stop and tell your child, whoa. I used to tell my kids, whoo, I'm cuckoo bananas. I'm cuckoo bananas, people. I'm gonna go drink some water. I'm gonna come back to my breath. I'll be right back because I'm not the best at this moment. And you see, if you do that continually, if you stop and you reset, you're giving a gift to your child. Because the other thing that I want parents to understand is that a perfect parent is just as bad as a neglectful parent. If your child thinks that you're perfect, then you're not human. And then they're definitely imperfect. They definitely make mistakes. They're definitely impulsive and making tons of mistakes. So if they don't see you make mistakes, they don't know how to manage them.
Right.
So be real, but also when in doubt, take care of you and your mood. And I promise that the rest of it will fall into place because they're plugging into you. They're drinking your water. And, that's a big responsibility. Reason 385 why parenting is such a difficult.
Thank you, Lina.
You just reminded me of a story of my son Daniel when he would not go and stay in his room when he was having a meltdown at like age 8 or 9. And so I began to take my own time out and go and say, Daniel, I need to have some space, and I'm going to go in my room, and please be safe and leave me alone for a little bit so I can gather myself to have a conversation with you. And that was my strategy for him. Yeah, so I love what you shared. Very, very good advice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't ever want a child. There's a couple of goals I want parents to have. Number one, make sure that you're keeping your children healthy and safe.
Yeah.
Not happy. Happy is an awful goal for parenting, because think about what makes children happy. You can't do it. You won't keep them healthy and safe if you keep them happy. And number two, please have the goal that when your children are adults, that they do not take your mood, your history, you personal, that they understand that we're two separate individuals with two separate experiences. We can have empathy for one another, but I don't have to take your mood and your energy personal. So whenever you can tell on yourself, right? So saying, you're making mommy really mad, you just made your mood personal.
Yeah.
So be careful with that.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's a lot of those points that are really hitting me right in the chest. So both of these organizations, Stop Parenting Alone and Mindful Kids Miami, are founded on research, evidence-based research and benefits, and also your experience as a parent, which we've heard some of your own tips that have worked for you or experiences. But I was wondering if there's something else you'd like to share personally. Is there something as a parent, not as a research-based, therapist, or something as a parent that helps you to connect with your child? And I'm going to share one very short one for myself. I apologize to my 3-year-old when I make mistakes. I go and I say, Alex, I'm sorry, mommy did this. And I found that to be very helpful in connecting with her and helping her to learn. And I'm wondering, is there something that you'd like to share that's personal that helps you connect with your child and to respect each other?
Curiosity. It has helped me through all of their developmental markers. My children are 13 and 16 today. And I imagine, right? I have a library of books in my head and research papers and, telling me, whether I'm a good parent or a bad parent on a regular basis. And what I had to teach myself was to be curious about them, right? Which in a way, it's a mindful practice, right? To know that I know, but also to be here with them, and how are they expressing and presenting themselves, and instead of asking what's wrong, right, asking what's changing, because that's the other big piece in parenting. From the moment that they're born until they leave our home, they're constantly developing and changing. And if you're not curious about what has changed, you may use the negative bias of the brain, because our brain likes to look for danger on a regular basis and think there's something wrong. And so for me, what has really worked for me, and what had to work for me so I didn't get stuck in my academia head, was to be curious about what was happening for my child and the individual that stands in front of me. So curiosity and saying, what's changing, what's different, and how am I going to relate to it?
And Valerie, something you'd like to share?
Yeah, a particular story doesn't come to mind, but the act of listening, which is connected to that curiosity, the act of really truly listening, and being interested in their perspective, their understanding, and their emotional states, as well as their opinions and their takes on life, but also the interrelationships of family. I think that's so important, to be an open possibility for authenticity.
Thank you both. Really wonderful personal sharings and tips. And I'd like to open this up now and see if any of our participants have questions or comments, or maybe you want to share something that you're doing with your children that's really helpful or that feels, presence-based. So yeah, we'll just give some space for you to either chat or take yourself off of mute and ask Lina or Valerie or both a question. So the first person to ask is, that's always the hardest one, right? To take yourself off of mute. Maybe there was something during the discussion that you really agreed with or not, either way we can be open to bringing that up. Angela, did you want to?
Yes, hi. So I'm not even sure if I have a question, but I'm sure it'll come up as I start to speak, regarding Lina's point about being curious to your children's change. So I have a 13-year-old, a new adolescent, and I think that so much of it is related to his development. But then, I hear family saying, well, it's not like any other teenager I know, and it doesn't seem correct. And I prefer not to see fault or a problem and see it as just typical development. But how do you connect in a way that you can feel confident that it's just a wave that you're going through and not something that you should be concerned about?
That's the $1 million question in parenting, right? And also why it's so difficult, right? Because there's a lot of fear in our raising of our children. We want to get it right. So I heard a couple of things in what you were describing. First and foremost, the fact that you are being open and not labeling makes it so that you're probably seeing your child with more clarity than those around you that are telling you teenagers do this. No, we have studies and we've looked at, and in general, teenagers do this. But development is really frustrating because there's such a big spectrum, right? Some little people walk in 10 months, some little people walk in 18 months, and those of us in development were like, ah. So I would say a tip for teenagers: when you're thinking something that's scaring you, when you're thinking something that you're like, oh, I don't know, should I be thinking this? It's beautiful to look at a teenager and say, and by the way, Brene Brown uses this term a lot, but I like it, so I stole it. My head is telling me that you don't have a big group of friends, so then that means that you're not being social and then you're a broken teenager. But that's my crazy head. What do you think about it, buddy? And then your kid will be like, what? Or, I don't know, mom, and then trust your gut. So it's beautiful to have that discussion with adolescents. And yeah, I continue this openness to not trying to see him from one singular lens. I always tell parents, I have expertise in children, and I have expertise in development, and I have expertise in psychology, but I am not the expert of your child. And if anybody is talking at you rather than with you, I don't recommend that professional.
Good advice. Thank you.
There's some good questions on the chat.
Yes, I'm going right over there. So Leah says, I struggle with my daughter who demands my attention when I'm on the phone or talking to someone else. Are there any tips on how to handle this?
I love this question. I get this question like 3 times an hour.
Valerie, do you want to start and then we'll go to?
Yeah, I can chime in there. I think what we teach in our programs is co-creating agreements, right? And so having a conversation with the child when you're not on the phone and explaining what happens and that this is mommy's time or daddy's time to, be in a conversation with someone. And I really would appreciate it if we can find some way. So what do you think would work? And even a 3-year-old can come up with an idea. Well, how about I play with, my favorite game while you're on the phone? And, just have an agreement that's workable, that supports each of you. And when kids are asked to come up with ideas, they usually don't fail that opportunity. And then they feel a part of it. They take responsibility for it. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. And Lina?
Yes, totally, Valerie, right on the money, right? Be clear of the expectation. Now, children under 5 years old are still working and managing their impulse control, so they're gonna mess up most of the time. Children school age years are, their impulse control is somewhere in the 40% and they use it up in school. So when they get home, they can't hold their impulses anymore. And adolescents, I think the number is 60, but don't quote me. So for the little ones, one thing that I want everybody that has children under 7, I want to do a reframe on language. Stop calling it attention and start calling it connection. That way, your nervous system will respond less punitive and more loving. If they need my attention, your unconscious nervous system response is like, ugh. But if they need my connection, you're going to be less abrupt about stopping them from coming and bothering you on the phone. So little person comes, they can't control their impulses. They forgot your agreement because they're 3. And stay here on the phone. Now they know you heard them. Now they're practicing patience. Now you're giving them an opportunity to self, or you're talking to an adult and they're like, daga, 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 right here next to you. Put your hand on their shoulder and continue here. And in your parent heart, no, I'm giving them an opportunity to practice patience. I'm giving them an opportunity in that moment to have an experience of waiting. And don't go, mommy's on the phone. Shh. No, and stay here. Now, to do that, you have to tolerate the noise and back to your nervous system, right? Sometimes that's hard to do. So that would be my 1, 2, 3. So both have a plan. And if their impulse control fails them, touch. Again, this. Don't give eyes, don't give voice. Just do this and stay on the phone.
Thank you.
Works.
I'm going to try it. Katya asked, how do we help them to have their own opinion, not based on what their classmates say or like?
Depends on the age group. It's perfectly normal for school age children, kindergarten and 2nd grade, to want to be like their peers. Okay, 10, perfect.
Yeah.
So, but just to kind of go through the, they're free and awesome in preschool because everybody is just in their own little wonderful magical world. Then they hit the school age years, right? And they go through 2 big developmental markers as it pertains to social awareness and social understanding, right? So kindergarten to 2nd grade, not all of them, but most of them want to be like their peers only because they are learning and mastering social norms and social rules. Just like when their brain all of a sudden told them to pull up so they can walk, their brain is telling them to try on how to be a friend. And they get information from culture, right? And from the environment that they're growing up in, right? So they may be next to the super popular student in the school because they know that that's what that person holds power and they get to do what they want. Right. So your task in the school age years is less about, you don't have to do what everybody else does, but curiosity. Curiosity. I see that, you really love Andrew. And, I saw that you wanted me to get you those tennis shoes that Andrew has. And I was wondering, what is it about the tennis shoes? What is it about Andrew? What do you see in Andrew that you wish to see in yourself? Now you're not going, because I don't want you to be like that bad kid. And now you're being, help me understand. And then your child may be like, well, he's cool, da, da, da. And they're going to give you great information. 10 through 12 is an incredibly, the big dilemma of the 10 to 12-year-old is that they know that they're not a little kid and they know that they're not a teenager. And they're stuck in the hallway. And it feels bad. And some children wake up little kids, and some people, and in the age group, sorry, us the adults, we have to in the morning pay attention. It's like, who woke up? Are they putting on the little kid hat, or are they playing teenager? And then we have to adjust for them because they're playing teenager, just like they played potty. Just like they played with gender rules and gender norms when they were in pre-K 4 in kindergarten, right? So, and unfortunately, when we're playing teenager, they play teenager with stereotypes. And what are the stereotypes and the cultural, a teenager goes to parties and they wear sexy things and all these ridiculous things, especially for girls, right? In this gender binary that we live in. So I don't want you to say stop it, but I want you to broaden the scope. But I also would like for you to wonder why this particular person is attractive to them. And then you actually will be able to intervene properly, but know that your daughter is trying on personas because she is moving and changing and soon going to enter the launch phase of, once they're teenagers, it's like, peace out, parents. And it should be that. Because in the teenage years, they're practicing being an adult. And I want them to practice in the safety of your home. So the teenage years, we do actually set up rules and scaffolding, but we don't tell them what to do. It's horrible. Like, I used to talk about it all fancy pants, academic and everything. And then my children became teenagers and I was like, oh God, because it hurts. It hurts. It's a grieving process for us.
It's a roller coaster of emotions.
Yes, ma'am.
When
Yes.
when the teenager wake up and then when the kid wake up, I'm like, this is my kid. This is the one.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So adjust. She doesn't have to adjust. She's growing and changing. And when the teenager wakes up, she's doing the stereotype. So silence is key with teenagers. Silence, look, be curious, and see what they're trying on. But Katya, you're right. It hurts.
Thank you.
thank you so much.
And what a powerful also phrase you shared earlier, help me understand. That's a very powerful phrase to use for kids instead of, I'm going to tell you what to do. No, help me understand. So thank you. I'm going to direct this question, the next one from Fernanda to Valerie. And then I think the last question is going to be from Melissa to Lina. And then we'll go to our resources moving forward because I think we'll be close to the end time. So Fernanda is asking, any tips for incentivizing mindfulness for kids with ADHD? My 9-year-old was just diagnosed and homework time has been hard for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think coming back to the suggestion that we watch the language that we use, right? Incentivizing is goal motivated and parent driven, right? And what I think is helpful, has been helpful in drawing children to their own decision about how a class or a program or learning about something can be helpful, is giving them an opportunity to try it without any risk, right? So we often will offer the student an opportunity to come into the class, and if they really don't like it, they can drop it. But to try it and see, and I've done that in raising my own two boys. I had a son who was very gifted musically, never wanted to take piano lessons. And I said, well, after several tries of things that didn't work, how about you just try it? And if you really, really hate it, you promise I'll never bring it up again. And he tried it and he stuck with piano lessons for over a year. And, so it's just listening to them, sensing resistance, but also sharing with them, thinking about the struggles they have, and knowing that there's information that this kind of learning can be helpful for these struggles that you have, and having them understand that it's something, your motivation to really want to help them succeed and be not happy, but comfortable in their life, right? And be able to thrive in their life. So trying it and giving them an opportunity to say, it's not for me, but only knowing that after you've given it a shot.
And if I might also piggyback, Valerie, because when you teach these kids series, there's a really fun and active element to them.
Mhm.
So that's an important part for children with ADHD, or just children in general learning mindfulness, is that it's not like the typical, let's just sit and close our eyes and feel, our breath all the time. So that's very challenging for most children. But there are activities and games that can be played, and other ways to introduce it. So maybe the class didn't work out, but maybe mindful eating, your fruit or chocolate, or mindful nature walk, might be helpful. So these are all things that you explore in your mindful teacher.
Yeah, and they are very interactive. So the students who show up are the ones that I'm responding to when I'm teaching with children. So it's really becomes their class, and driven by where their interests lead me. So thank you for bringing that up, Dorlie.
I want to piggyback just a little bit on an ADHD brain, a neurodivergent brain, needs novelty. So don't be shocked by your child constantly needing to switch it up a little bit, right? An ADHD brain is looking for something new. So you may have to, I love Valerie's advice, try different classes, what you said, Dorlie, but that is especially true for the neurodivergent brain, children that have ADHD, children in the spectrum. It's interest and novelty that drives them. That's why school is so hard, because there's no novelty in the math class. We're doing the multiplication tables every single day the same way. So that's why it gets so difficult. That the repetitive nature of school is what's difficult for the ADHD student.
Thank you. So we have our final question, and then we will speak to the resources that these two programs or organizations can offer you. Lina from Melissa, can you talk more about our job as parents to keep our kids safe and healthy, not happy? This really resonated with me as I'm learning this with my 6-year-old and also with my baby. I'm really trying to work on myself to remind me that it's not my job to keep my baby entertained, but to offer opportunities to explore in a safe environment. How do we get better at reminding this to ourselves every day? Safe and healthy, not happy.
So I like that it resonated. So safe and healthy, emotionally and physically, not happy. Why it's so difficult to maintain that? It's because of our own experience with emotions. Why you are driven to keep your children happy is because there are certain emotions that all of you got to 20, 30, 40, 50 that you haven't really learned to manage. So when a 3-year-old is frustrated, disappointed, or sad, back to the nervous system, you're like, but if you have spent 30 years of your life avoiding conflict, you're going to try to make that baby happy because you don't know how to manage conflict. Right? It has nothing to do with the baby. The baby is just doing something natural. They are in free, uncensored emotional expression. Mwah, I love it. I love 3-year-olds. They're free, uncensored emotional expression. I wish that we still live in the place where everybody acted like 3-year-olds because they're amazing. Right? So how to stay in healthy and safe is to be okay with their emotional response to your routines and your boundaries. Just because your baby cries or your 6-year-old rolls her eyes or your 10-year-old stomps away does not mean that your boundary of safety and health is broken. Is that they are having the age-appropriate, immature response, emotional response to having to deal with frustration, disappointment, and sadness. And the way that you stick with it is twofold. You remind yourself, the crazy lady said that my child is building the muscle of frustration, disappointment, and sadness right now, and I don't have to fix it. I just have to be with them. And then go, oof, every time my child is sad, I get reminded of how my father used to scream at me when I was sad, and then I can't tolerate it, so I want to stop it. That has nothing to do with your child. It has to do with your brain, because our brain is an association machine, and it uses information from the past to associate it to information in the present so that we can make a decision. So when it gets difficult, try your best, and you're not going to do it perfectly. You're going to mess up, but you're going to have 185,000 times to do it until your child leaves your house, of separating you and your experience of the emotion that they are expressing and your boundary, your routine, and your consistency in keeping them healthy and safe. I hope that wasn't too convoluted, but.
Thank you so much, Lina and Valerie, and everyone who is here to listen and learn and practice and ask questions. I want to just take a moment to make sure. I know Lina has a lot of wonderful upcoming programs and current events, and Mindful Kids Miami has the spring programs beginning this next week. There is the mindfulness-based stress reduction for any parent who would like to really learn about mindfulness and practice it for yourself first, so that we are putting that oxygen mask on ourselves before we're attending to our children, our coworkers, our partners. So that's one of the gold standards of programs beginning soon. There's also Mindful Self-Compassion program. Who of us as parents does not need self-compassion, when we're struggling maybe with guilt or judgment? There is the Mindful Teacher Training Program, where adults learn how to bring mindfulness in age-appropriate ways to children. And Valerie will be teaching a kids series for ages 7 to 11, beginning in April. And we also have a mindfulness-based stress reduction specifically for teenagers. If you are interested, I'm going to go ahead and put just our website in the chat so you can look that up. And then Lina, please tell me about what you're offering.
So I think that the best way to have me in your cell phone, have me a click away, is my online parenting support subscription. It's a monthly subscription where you get me on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I do this, I get on, I answer 6 people's questions. So they're developmental questions. So just like it felt today, your question will be answered even though you didn't ask one. And there's a private Facebook group where you can ask your question. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and your baby is acting crazy. You type it in, within 48 hours, I'll answer your question there as well. And every phone call that I've done for the Q&As and every answer that I have in Facebook is in a private area of the website. So you can peruse to your heart's desire and get my master's program just by reading answers so I say that that's the best service that I offer. So it's called Online Parenting Support. You can go to onlineparentingsupport.com and it will give you all the details about that. Oh, thanks, Andy.
Yes, thank you so much. And for this last minute, wow, we're like really doing wonderful with time here in this Miami time. Please feel free to take yourself off mute if you'd like to say thank you or goodbye. Just a really thank you so much, Lina, for having this platform for us all to share our information, very important information. One of the hardest jobs there is.
Oh, and also if you're on Instagram, you can follow me at my business, my center, Stop Parenting Alone, or you can follow me and my crazy thoughts at Parenting Expert on Instagram. And in my work page, Stop Parenting Alone on Instagram, every Monday and every Wednesday, we give a parent tip. So that if you want, you can print it out and put it on your fridge and keep it for the week until the following week, just to kind of stay focused on a particular item and be mindful about that one tip, especially if it resonates with you. So a lot of free stuff. I give a lot of free stuff.
Yes, free stuff is good stuff. Yes, and thank you, Valerie. And you can also get in touch with Valerie personally for any private family sessions of yoga, mindfulness, and all of the above for families and children. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Lina, for being here with us today. And thank you, Dorlie, for facilitating, and for all the attendees. Hope you got some valuable skills, tools, tips, and that we'll see you soon.
Yes,
Yes.
we'll see you all soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Great to see you guys. Good job.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and opening up your community to me. And I saw some of my community in here too. So it was a nice little
Yeah.
convergence.
Nice
was
little
great.
merge. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lina. This was really wonderful and a lot of fun.
Perfect. All right.